Cool.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Wonderbound panel called Let's Talk Poop.
Let's talk about it.
This is our favorite named panel, our favorite named book. We are talking today about Hello, My Name is Poop with writer Ben Katzner and artist Ian McGinty. Say hey, guys.
Hey, guys. I said
Hello.
hey, guys.
All right, so we today are talking about this book, this amazing book called Hello, My Name is Poop. So Hello, My Name is Poop is about a young boy named Will Poupé who becomes the target of bullies at his middle school. All day long, they call him Poop. But when it turns out that Icky the janitor is actually a wizard in disguise, he tells him that Poop is actually one of the names of power. And if you have it, you can gain special abilities. But armed with his new powers, Will seeks to get back at the bullies who taunted him, but power, even Poop power, is exactly what can turn someone into a bully. So ultimately, he decides to become a force for good, and our hero uses his powers for something more constructive by the end of the book. This book is so much fun, and I'm so excited to have you guys here to talk about it. So I want to talk a little bit at first about how this book kind of came together, because it was a little bit different from how some of our other books came together. So this one came because our editor-in-chief made a joke at one point about how even as adults, we all still laugh when we say the word poop, and kids in particular laugh when they hear the word poop. And we said that one of the best ways to get a kid to pick up a book would just be to call it Poop. And so from there, we came up with this idea to have a book called Poop. And with the kind of general idea, we sort of kicked around internally. And then we went to you, Ben, and we said, hey, we want to do this book about poop. Here's the kind of general idea that we were thinking. And we asked you, what would you do with a book like this? And you kind of pitched us back this incredible idea and these incredible characters and a totally incredible take. And that's where the book kind of started. So I wanted to start with you and talk to you about what was it that made you decide that you wanted to write this book about poop and join us on this crazy journey that we've all gone on together.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was when the idea kind of came across to me, I was like, I've never heard of anything like this. This is fascinating to me. I'm so interested in it. And just the idea of, you were like, hey, we have this thought. How do you feel? And then you laying it on me and being like, okay, it's going to be called Hello, My Name is Poop. And this is what's happening. And I was so excited. I'm like, yes, how could I say no to something like this? This is so different. It's so unique. I've never been able, if I were to go around and just write about poop on my own, people would think I'm a crazy person. But so to be involved with a group of people who are like, no. We want you to write about poop was an exciting opportunity for me. So it was really just me not being able to say no to something so fun and so different.
Awesome. And I know that when we kind of finally put you guys together, Ian, I reached out to you and I said, you and I have known each other for a long time. I knew your sensibilities, I knew your sense of humor, and I had a feeling that this book was going to be up your alley. And I know when I pitched it to you, you kind of had the same thing of like, oh, yep, nope, I want to do that book. This sounds great. But I know then the two of you we put you two together and you connected and talked about this book. And, even though this is an incredibly fun book and we'll get into all of the humor and all the fun stuff that you guys are doing with the conceit of this book, but also at the end of the day, we wanted to tell a story that did have emotional resonance, that did have, a real story at the heart of it. And this one is about bullying. And so I know that was something that the two of you kind of connected over when you first started talking about this book. So can you guys talk a little bit about how that theme of bullying and that one affected your guys' life and part of why you came to do the book?
Ben, I'm going to let you go first on this one, my man.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting to me. I grew up in a place. I'm actually back in my hometown right now, but so where I grew up, I had a lot of really good friends I'm still with right now, and they really I realize now they protected me from a lot of stuff, and they were awesome people. But I think all of us have an experience, at least one time in your life where you were the outsider, you felt uncomfortable, someone made you feel uncomfortable, something like that. And like in a book like this, it's like you just tap back into those feelings, and it really brought me back to being like, oh, like what if I had a different way to handle these situations? Or what if I was Will and I was dealing with these situations? It really made me get in tune with some stuff that I probably haven't thought about in a long time. And if I'm being fully honest, I've been bullied before, but I've also been the kid who, like, to preemptively stop bullying was probably meaner than he needed to be. And I feel like in this book, I think some of that is reflected in some of the things that Will does. So a lot of my background is all over this book, I think.
What about you, Ian?
I mean, I was constantly bullied. I am a shorter man. And I was also like, and I was much smaller than I even am now. So no, I was bullied constantly, and actually, ironically, being bullied was how I got into art, because it was a way to, and I say this not ironically, I say this completely realistically, it was a way for me to not make eye contact with the people who were making my life very hard, because I could just like bury my head. And then also at the time, and I was drawing comics as well, just for myself, which was putting me in another world and things like that, because I was getting bullied constantly. So there's a reason, excuse me, there's a reason that I kind of like drew Will from the main character of the book kind of in the way I did, where he's like a shorter guy. I was a short, like chubby dude. Will is a short, like chubby dude. I feel like there's a lot of similarities there. But yeah, I mean, I was definitely bullied by, not only people my age at the time through elementary school, middle school, high school, and things like that, but also adults from time to time. So it's just there are people just in your life that sometimes they just target on you, but joke's on them, because I'm drawing a book called Hello, My Name is Poop. So I won.
You're using your poop powers for good.
I won this one. So I'm very happy about that.
You talked a little bit about the character design for Will and coming up with that. And I wanted to talk to both of you about that. When you guys were first talking, I know when you connected, you were kicking ideas around, Ian, you were sending sketches that you were doing in your notebook from the airport. What then for you, like, what were the things at the beginning that you knew you wanted for Will and the character design? And then Ian, what were the things that kind of like you then took that and ran with it, and we ended up where we are with Will?
Yeah, I definitely just wanted someone who, if you're a young kid now, especially a young kid of color, I would love to see that reflected in this story, whether it's the main character or, everybody else in the book. I want people to be able to turn each page and see people who look like the people they see in their worlds. So that was huge for me. So Ian was great about me being like, what about like this haircut? What about this haircut? What about this clothing choice? Whatever, like, because I was literally, I'm based in New York, and I'm walking down the streets of New York and seeing these young kids, and I'm like, oh, this person is in the age range of our character for this book. That's the haircut that they have. I'm asking all my friends, I'm asking my nephews and nieces and like all this stuff. And I just really wanted it to feel like a young kid now and in the future too. Like anybody who's young could look at this and be like, oh, that's me, or that was me, or, I just wanted that familiarity there. That was big for me.
Yeah, Ben and I talked exclusively, and I mean, like, as an artist who is a white person, obviously, like, you have to I have to ask like sometimes hard questions, which is what Ben and I kind of have got into, because Ben's experience is obviously going to be different than my experience as like a child. So I thought it was really great to kind of talk about that, because Ben was very like forward about sort of like, his life and things like that. And then eventually we sort of settled on basing Will's design off of, I believe it was your nephew, right, Ben?
It's my friend's nephew.
Your friend's
yeah.
nephew. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then so we simplified it down a lot, just because then we also had this idea where we were like, oh, if we simplify it down, then like kids can draw this character much more easily than if it was like a way more complicated design and things like that. I mean, that said, though, I personally think it came out really awesome and all that. But yeah, it was definitely a very interesting discussion, because like I was saying, there's just things that different people experience. But it's really important to to ask those questions, to say like, you know, your life has probably been a little bit different than mine, or my life has been a little bit different than yours. Let's actually like talk about this. And that's kind of how we came around with these designs, to be honest. That said, the bully character of CJ is directly based off a guy who was torturing me in middle school. So I will take that one.
Do we have to say allegedly for like legal terms or something?
Yes, yes.
Could
Allegedly.
possibly
He's
be.
allegedly.
I'm not saying their name. So
Yes,
their name was not CJ.
And CJ has a little duck on his shirt who reflects his emotions. Who did you base the character design of the duck off of, Ian?
That was literally that. I was just like, I really wish I had a shirt that would show my emotions. And I was just like, all right, we'll give it to this guy, because I also thought it was hilarious. Also, an angry duck. Come on.
Yeah. Always funny every time.
There's nothing not funny about that.
A thing I didn't know I needed was a duck giving side eye to people. You know, that was a beautiful image. So I'm excited for people to see what you've come up with there.
The perfect, you know what? I'm not going to make the joke. Never mind. I was going to say the perfect wingman.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I know. Ben's a professional comedian. I'm over here making dad jokes. It's fine.
Exactly. So that's a perfect segue to talking about the humor in this book. So, you know, Ben, obviously one of the reasons why we came to you was because your background is in comedy. You are a stand-up comedian. You know, comedy is your world. And we wanted, first and foremost, this book, you know, we wanted it to have heart. You know, we wanted it to be a story that kids could really like see themselves in. But also at the end of the day, if you're writing a book called Hello, My Name is Poop, it's got to bring the funny. It's got to be funny. It's got to be real. Kids have got to pick this up, and it's got to deliver on the laughs that you anticipate with a title like that. So, you know, so for you and Ian, I know that there's so much humor in the art too that you're bringing, but then starting with you, how did you approach the humor in this? What was that kind of, you know, now that you have written, you know, enough of the script that there's been kind of an evolution as you've gone, what did you find that process like transitioning to this kind of book?
Yeah. You know, my first pitch to you was gritty realism, Christopher Nolan, Batman style. And you're like, what if we lighten it up a little bit? But no, I think this has been a really good, I'm going to say writing exercise, but really just experience for me, just because this is a different medium for me, but it's like, where do the jokes fit in? Where does the heart fit in? How do you meld all that together? And I think it's been really fantastic being able to try to make that math work. And I think for me as a comedian, it's hard. One of the things we tend to do in stand-up comedy is kind of act like we know everything and be like, we're telling you a joke from the perspective that we know that we're right and all this sort of stuff, right? So the thing I had to switch was, Will is in a time in your life where you're so anxious because you don't know so much, and you're so excited because there's so much to learn. And I wanted to get back in that headspace. So that was like an interesting thing for me. And it was really fun to just kind of dive back into that thinking where, like, you know, I think we all remember being kids and being like, do teachers live at school? Like, what do they do? Is there like a cubby that they hang out at? Like, what is this? Like, you know, and like just having that sort of wonderment and looking at the world like that was fun to write. And it was fun to kind of go back there. And then, you know, and then then you're like, yeah. And then there's a bunch of poop jokes, and it's great and it's fun. And I really hope that the excitement I had for writing this kind of is evident for people, because I had a lot of fun putting this together. So I hope people can really share in that fun with me.
And I think one of the things that you've done that's been such a hard needle to thread is that, you know, obviously you expect poop jokes, you expect a lot of this kind of very base level humor, and you do have to deliver on that. You know, you're expecting poop jokes, you got to give the poop jokes, but what you've done is you've made it both really smart humor at the same time, but also fantasy. Like, you have turned this into a genuine fantasy magic superhero story. It just happens to be that the medium of magic that we are using is poop.
Right.
And that's been a really interesting thing to watch you walk through and totally nail. And it's really hard thing to do. So kudos.
Well, I appreciate and real quick, I just want to thank you for that, because you're the person who is kind of like, no, let's go for it here. Like, it's okay to go bigger. Like, if I have some crazy idea and I pitch it to you, you're like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Or if I am maybe toning down more than I need to, you're like, no, let's really see what we can do with this. And that, I think that's made the book so much better. So
let's go for the poop tornado.
exactly.
You got to go for it. So then, Ian, on your side, you know, one of the things that I love so much about you and your cartooning and your storytelling is that there's more than just, you know, you take a script and you nail what's on the script, but then you add all these other storytelling elements to the background. There's so many Easter eggs in this book. There's not a single line that you draw in it that isn't contributing to the story, the heart, and the humor. So for you drawing these pages, things like the duck on the shirt or the posters in the background, like what has that part been the most fun for you? And like, how do you approach that? Kind of adding all those elements.
Absolutely. I mean, like I have dreamed of being able to do a book like this where I could do that. And a lot of that came from me working at Nickelodeon doing the Invader Zim movie, where Jonan Vasquez, who like is the creator, obviously was my boss. He was all like, he did books, comic books, graphic novels that did the same thing. They always had these little like weird Easter egg, one of his characters would have a shirt that would like change the image on it, just like I'm doing with CJ, except not as hardcore. But then yeah, there would always be like posters in the background and like whatever. And I took a lot of that. It's weird because the books I'm describing are not kid friendly. I'm not going to say the name of it because it's also not kid friendly, but that's kind of like weirdly where I took a lot of inspiration from, was just that it makes it more fun. It just makes it, to me, like when I was a kid, that's the kind of stuff visually that I always would make me reread a book over and over and over, because there was things that you didn't spot. It's like it's like when people break down, like, say, a Marvel movie or something like that. And then it's all like, oh, you didn't see this. You didn't get this. Did you not get this? Did you not, and you go like, whoa, dude, like I didn't realize. But you can do that so much more directly in a comic. And I have to say, like, it's really been one of my favorite parts of drawing this book was, like we were saying, CJ's duck shirt, all the posters in the background, all those dumb posters that were in the cafeteria, like as a kid, where it's like fruits are fun, and all this kind of whatever. But I have to say, like, that's been really cool. But like, honestly, just for me, it's been really, like Ben was mentioning earlier, like really, I feel like nailing down Will's character expressions and all the other characters and things like that, and the designs just have really come together for me, probably more than any other book I've worked on. And I've worked on a lot of books, but this has been one of the few, except for like my own book, that I've really been given the go-ahead to just kind of design these characters pretty much how I envision them. Obviously, Ben and I talk, and we've done our back and forth like we talked about earlier, but like this has been one where I've been given a ton of freedom through Vault to really go all out. And I think that has been why this book is so funny and why it works so well, because we don't have we're not having a ton of restrictions. We're really, like, Ben and I are really letting ourselves be as creative as we possibly want to be. Like Ben was saying earlier, with like letting him being like, go for it, just like go for it. And that's really been kind of how I've felt about the entire thing. It's really nice. It's really freeing, and it's really cool, especially as an artist, for a publisher and an editor and things like that, to just say, just do it, dude. Like, go for it. We'll judge it later.
Well, I'm glad that you guys feel that way. And I think part of the reason why, I've been able to trust you guys with that freedom is because you're so committed to the space and the audience that we're telling the story to. You guys know that there is this book is, you guys are going to put your creative spirit into it and bring everything of your own experience. But at the end of the day, this book is for kids to see themselves in, and you guys have known and like committed to that from the get-go. And I think that's where the heart comes from. And I think that's a huge part of what makes the book work and what makes the humor work, is that there is this like core of heart, that it's not for us at the end of the day, even though we're putting ourselves into it, which I love. And one of the things that kind of leads me to that I wanted to ask you guys about is that, you know, obviously this book is one that all kids can read. Ben, you're talking about you want the kids to be able to turn the page and see themselves. You know, half of our cast is girl characters. You know, it's very kind of even Stevens in terms of that. But if we're being honest, you know, when we went into this, one of the things that we talked about was we wanted this to be a book that would be a place where we could get more boys specifically to read. And that was, you know, you guys were both big readers, you ended up being big readers, but that, you know, we all talked about at the beginning that sometimes it is a harder thing to get young boys excited about sitting down and reading a book and engaging. And what do you guys feel like is so important about that to you guys and about this book and that kind of mission of finding those kids, finding those kind of reluctant 8-year-old boy readers that maybe haven't found something that's grabbed them, that's brought them in? What about that is like really exciting to you guys?
After you, Ben.
Yeah, for me, being able to tap into something for kids that they didn't maybe think was there right away. You know, if they're not into reading right now, there's a good chance that it might just be they haven't found the right thing yet, you know, and being able to potentially have that key to unlock that for them is so exciting. Because I know even as an adult now, like, if I'm not into a book or something, it can be a slog to get through. Or, if, you know, through the first 100 pages or something, I'm like, I guess I'll just come back to this when I'm older. I don't know what to do here. But I think as a kid, there's something so exciting about thinking you don't like a thing and then having the light bulb go on in your mind and being like, no, I love this. This is amazing. And then just consuming and like cramming all the information you can into your brain and just like really immersing yourself into that world. So my goal is to, you know, our goal collectively is, to find the kids young boys who maybe aren't into reading yet and find something that they can really dive into and kind of escape into. Like, writing this, I have used this book as an escape. I have used this to the world, you know, the world can be tough and it's fun to have a place to go into and just really lose yourself in a good way in, right? And I want that for young kids. I want kids to be able to have that same experience. So that's kind of where I'm at with all of that.
Ian, what about you?
I think like kind of the beauty of this book is that this is something that I was an avid reader, right? I read a lot, like because I was being bullied all the time. So I would dive into books, and that was like kind of my escape, like Calvin and Hobbes. That was a huge one, you know, The Far Side, all that stuff. And then just like, you know, Redwall, all these graphic novels, like, and actual novels, things like that. But I think also the beauty of this is that the market right now, and I say this as, I'm just saying this as like a, you know, person who kind of knows the comic scene, but there's a lot of content very specifically aimed at young women, which is great. But I do like that we are not focusing, but it's like this is an avenue to encourage younger boys to read, which I think is really important, because I know for a fact that there's not a ton of stuff out there right now for like young men, younger boys and things like that isn't like violent and kind of, and maybe sort of sometimes inappropriately hypersexualized, things like that. But I also think that this book really does sort of nail that. I think that like younger women could probably also enjoy this book as well, because there are strong female characters in this. Like Callie, for example, is an awesome character, you know, and we have all this but what it comes down to, I think, is that it's like everybody from all aspects here can kind of identify with being the outsider. And there's very few people who are constantly on the inside of maybe a social circle, and there's a lot of people who are just not constantly popular and things like that, except for maybe you, Tay. But
oh no, let me tell you, I was not.
But my point is, it's like, I think this is great because yes, it's encouraging boys and young men. I think it's encouraging boys and young men to read because it's funny, but Ben has also written like a really heartfelt story as well, but it's also action oriented. There's fun stuff going on. There's funny jokes. There's all this kind of stuff. So far, I'm thinking it's looking pretty good thus far, but mostly it is down to kind of like Ben and I working together and like really like trying to make this into just like a really solid, awesome like graphic novel, you know? And I think that's what it comes down to. And it's really cool for me to, one, read the script, and then two, start to draw it. There's a drum line going on outside my house right now, so if you hear that, ignore that. I live across from the Naval Academy, so there's always some noises. But anyways, but yeah, it's just like, it's really cool, like seeing this an outlet for like maybe like a young man who's not into reading, that they get an opportunity to dive into something, but then also seeing that, you know, it's also a book for maybe, you know, for everybody else. I mean, is what's so great. And that's where Ben really has nailed it. So
I'm so excited for everybody to read it. The last thing I want to ask you guys, because I want to get some details for our audience of what exactly we're talking about when we're talking about these poop powers. What so far for each one of you has been your favorite ridiculous moment in this book? What's at the top right now for each one of you?
I definitely have two. But the one that, I mean, one of the first things I thought of when you came to me with this, Tay, was the poop tidal wave. I'm not going to give too much away, but other than saying there is a tidal wave of poop in this book, and that was probably one of the first panels I really thought of when this idea came to me. That was the panel I pitched. That was like, yeah. So I'm excited to see what it looks like, just for people to see what it looks like. And then two, kind of along the way, I don't know how we got here, but I was like, what if he just has like, what if he's experimenting with his powers and he has like a poop, like a gauntlet that can like launch poop. And that is exciting to me. Those are two things. The poop gauntlet, I wish I just had as a real human person right now. That would be amazing, just to, you know, clear
It's like his Green Lantern ring. It's amazing.
Right? Yeah. So those are my two for sure.
Ian, what about you?
It's Turdy twice.
Yes. Yeah.
Turdy is the one. That is the one. I don't know how much to reveal about Turdy, but I'm just gonna say Turdy. I'm gonna pick Turdy 2 times because that is my favorite thing of all time. And I'm looking at, so I'm designing this thing and I'm all like, all right, like here we go. And then I go, googly eyes. We're putting googly eyes on.
We're just leaving that. Something called Turdy and it has googly eyes.
And I was just like,
read to find out what it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to reveal what it is, but you're going to have to read what it is. But Turdy twice is what I'm going to say.
You stole mine. Turdy was mine.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so excited for people to see these, like, you know, if this book, for some reason, if something went wrong and there were no words in this book, you know, like the imagery and the colors and the way it's all put together, it just looks so beautiful. I'm so excited for people to see how amazing this looks. Like, I want people to know that, like, sure, I wrote some stuff, but like, I feel like Ian and Fred.
I was gonna say shout out to Fred stressing for the colors. By the way,
just like,
I didn't want to say that.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want a shirt with these images on. You know, like I want something. I just so people should be excited to.
I want an animated show.
Sure. Musical. Remember we talked about this.
Yeah,
musical.
Nice. I've been practicing my vocal.
I would watch that.
I want the warm up wizard jacket. Icky the janitor has the warm up jacket that is his wizard cloak. That's the best.
We haven't talked about Icky, but Icky is a great character too.
Icky is amazing. The wizard with the mop.
Who I based off Disco.
I really do think there is a character in this book for everyone. And like, yes, this is geared toward, young boys who are maybe getting into reading and everything, but like, I promise you, whoever you are, wherever you come from, regardless of your age, I promise there is something in here for everyone. And like, it's worth picking up. It is worth giving it a read. And just, I'm so excited for people to see this. I really am.
I am too. I know that we all keep saying, oh, this is going to make kids laugh, but we all have to admit it's just making us laugh. Even
Right.
even as adults,
For sure.
it's still funny as all get out. Well, I think that's an amazing note to end on. I do want to give another shout out to our amazing colorist, Fred Stressing, our amazing letterer, Darren Bennett. They're not here with us today, but they're a huge part of our creative team, and they're both crazy talented, and we're so lucky to have them. If anybody wants more information about Hello, My Name is Poop, or you want to see a preview, you want to get some free downloadable material, go to our virtual booth. We will be there for the rest of the show, or go visit readwonderbound.com at any point and get more information about this book. It will be coming out at the end of October, I believe October 26th. So keep your eyes out for it. This is going to be an amazing, amazing book. I am so excited to get this in the hands of kids and their parents everywhere. Everyone is going to laugh. It's an absolute blast. Thank you guys all for being here. Thank you to our amazing creators. So glad to be working with you guys. So glad to have you here at the show. And hopefully we'll see you guys all later this week. All right. Thanks, everybody.